welcome to Biology of Plants. This is part 2 of Introduction to Plant Biology and Classification. If you haven't seen part 1, I will leave the link in the description box below. We ended part 1 by discussing the two prokaryotic kingdoms, archaea and bacteria. In this video, we will discuss the 4 eukaryotic kingdoms and the classification of plant kingdom. Without any further delay, let's dive in. Kingdom Protista. Protista includes unicellular and simple multicellular eukaryotes, and this is a very diverse group with more than 200,000 species organized within 15 phyla. The diversity of this group ranges from their size, habitats, cellular organization, modes of nutrition, and reproduction. The organisms of this kingdom share characteristics with the other three eukaryotic kingdoms. That is, there are animal-like protists, for example amoeba, there are plant-like protists, for example algae, and there are fungi-like protists, for example slime molds and water molds. Some important examples of this kingdom are Phytophthora infestans, which is an oomycete and is a causative organism of potato late blight, infamously known for causing the potato Irish famine. Then there are kelps, which are brown algae, euglena, dinoflagellates, and diatoms. The organisms of this kingdom exhibit both autotrophic and heterotrophic modes of nutrition, and asexual reproduction is more common by means of fission or budding, although certain species reproduce sexually. Fungi include eukaryotic single-celled yeasts and multicellular organisms. This kingdom includes about 70,000 species and all of them exhibit heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Fungi are non-photosynthetic. They depend on other organisms for their food either as saprophytes or as parasites. The cell wall of fungi is made up of chitin. This is a very important distinction that differentiates fungi from all the other kingdoms. The vegetative body is called a mycelium, and a mycelium is made up of thread-like filaments called hyphae. Here, yeast is an exception because yeasts are single-celled organisms. Fungi grow well in moist places and are tolerant to a range of environmental conditions. This is something that we see in our everyday life. Fungi grow on leftover food or fruits or vegetables that are kept in room temperature and also when refrigerated. Fungi reproduce via spores. Again, yeast are an exception because they reproduce asexually by means of budding or fission. The kingdom fungi is divided into 5 phyla: Chytridiomycota, Glomeromycota, Zygomycota, Ascomycota, and Basidiomycota. Now, what is the significance of the organisms called fungi? On an ecological perspective, fungi perform a very important process called decomposition, in which they break down organic matter and which results in recycling of nutrients back to the soil. The fungi belonging to the phylum Glomeromycota establish a mutualistic relationship with the roots of trees called mycorrhiza. This relationship results in the transfer of nutrients and water between the tree and the fungus, and the network of mycorrhiza below the soil helps in maintaining the integrity of the soil. On an economic note, fungi are used as food, that is, mushrooms and truffles. They are also used in food and beverage industry for the fermentation of beer, wine, and bread, as a source of medicine, for example, penicillin-like antibodies, and fungi are also the causative organisms of numerous plant and animal diseases. Moving on, kingdom Animalia. Animals are multicellular eukaryotic heterotrophs, and it is the largest kingdom with over 1 million species. Animals are mobile organisms and they move from one place to another in search of food, water, shelter, and other favorable conditions. Animal cells lack a rigid cell wall. Their cellular contents are only protected by a plasma membrane. Digestion is internal in animals. Now, this is a point which distinguishes animals from other heterotrophic organisms. Other heterotrophic organisms, for example, fungi, break down their food outside their body and ingest the nutrients, whereas in animals, both breaking down and digestion takes place within the body of the organism. Animals reproduce sexually, and there is involvement of a non-motile large female egg and a flagellated male sperm. Alternations of generations is not seen in animals. We will see what alternation of generation is when we read about plants. Animals also exhibit determinate growth, that is, they stop growing after a certain period of time or after a certain age or maturity. On a basic level, animals are grouped into vertebrates and invertebrates based on the presence or absence of a vertebral column. Invertebrates which lack vertebral column are the more abundant group. Based on symmetry, there are two subkingdoms, Parazoa, which lack symmetry, and Eumetazoa, which possess bodily symmetry. Now, there are about 32 phyla within the animal kingdom, but the most common ones are discussed here. There is Porifera, which includes sponges, Echinodermata, starfishes, Cnidaria, jellyfish, sea anemones, Annelida, earthworms, leeches, Nematoda, roundworms, Platyhelminthes, flatworms, Chordata, mammals, fishes, birds, reptiles, Mollusca, snails, octopuses, and Arthropoda, insects. We as humans belong to Chordata. Coming to the star of our channel, Kingdom Plantae. Plants are complex multicellular organisms, and the kingdom includes several 100,000 species with very varied habitats. Plants are exclusively autotrophic, with perhaps a few exceptions, and they synthesize their own food by means of photosynthesis, in which they trap solar energy and convert them into carbohydrates. Plant cells have rigid cell walls, which is made up of cellulose, and there is a clearly defined alternation of generations. Now, I will be making a short video about alternation of generations, but to give a quick explanation of the concept, in the life cycle of a plant, there are two stages, a haploid gametophyte or asexual stage and a diploid sporophyte or sexual stage. Now, haploid and diploid refers to the number of chromosomes within a plant cell. That is why the life cycle of a plant is also known as haplodiplontic. Plants exhibit indeterminate growth, that is, their growth is not restricted by time, space, or age. Plants reproduce both sexually and asexually. Let us now look at the classification of Kingdom Plantae. On a very first level, Kingdom Plantae is divided into two groups, non-vascular plants and vascular plants. Now, what is a vascular system? So, vascular system in plants are responsible for the transport of water, minerals, and nutrients within the plant body. This transport happens with the help of specialized conducting tissues called xylem, which is involved in the transport of water and minerals, and phloem, which is involved in the transport of nutrients. Non-vascular plants do not have xylem and phloem, and vascular plants have xylem and phloem. Now, there's only one group of non-vascular plants, which are the bryophytes. Vascular plants are again divided into two groups, non-seeded plants and seeded plants. Now, the distinction, as it is very obvious, is that non-seeded plants do not produce seeds, whereas seeded plants produce seeds. There is one group of non-seeded plants which are the pteridophytes. Pteridophytes possess a vascular system, but they do not produce seeds. Seeded plants are of two types, the gymnosperms and the angiosperms. The difference between these two groups is that gymnosperms are non-flowering plants and the seeds they produce are called naked seeds. That is, they do not produce seeds which are enclosed. Angiosperms are flowering plants which produce enclosed seeds. That is, the seeds are enclosed within a fruit, for example, apple. Let us now look at each of the four groups in a little detail. Bryophytes. As said, bryophytes lack specialized vascular system and the dominant stage in their life cycle is the haploid gametophytic or asexual stage. Bryophytes are divided into three phyla and they reproduce by means of haploid gametes, and this group includes mosses, liverworts and hornworts. Teratophytes possess specialized vascular system for the conduction of water, minerals and nutrients, and they reproduce by means of spores and not seeds. In their life cycle, the dominant stage is the diploid sporophytic or sexual stage, and this group includes ferns and lycophytes. Gymnosperms are a non-flowering plants with naked seeds, and here also the dominant stage is the diploid sporophytic stage. Now, in gymnosperms and also in angiosperms, you can see the existence of monoecious and dioecious plants. Now, there are male and female sex organs. When male and female sex organs both occur on the same plants, they are called as monoecious plants. And when they occur on different plants, that is, there's a male plant and a female plant, then those plants are called as dioecious plants. Gymnosperms are divided into four phyla, and this group includes conifers, cycads, ginkgo, etc. Angiosperms are flowering plants and they produce enclosed seeds, and they are the most abundant plants within the plant kingdom. And there are two large classes, monocots and dicots. Some examples of monocots are grasses, cereals, orchids, and some examples of dicots are other flowering plants like sunflower, apples, oranges, etc. Now here the dominant stage is this diploid sporophytic stage and the gametophytic stage is highly reduced. Now if you see, as the complexity of plants increases, the gametophytic stage keeps decreasing. That is, the duration of the gametophytic stage in the life cycle of a plant keeps decreasing. As we saw in bryophytes, the most abundant stage was the gametophytic stage, and whereas in angiosperms we see that the gametophytic stage is highly reduced. With that, I conclude today's video and I thank you for being here. If you found this useful and informative, please like and subscribe to my channel and also leave your comments down below. I will see you all in another video soon. Till then, take care and bye-bye.